October has come and gone, and that means it is time for another monthly read and wrap up. If we haven't met already, my name is Ileana and I love to read books, obviously, and so we're going to talk about all of the books that I read in October, if I recommend them, and if I don't recommend them. There are no spoilers in this video. And if you love read and wrap up videos, definitely subscribe if you haven't already, because I do this every single month. So in October, I read a total of 6 books, which is about my average, especially as we get closer to the end of the year, which tends to be my busiest kind of like life months, where just stuff comes up. I'm very busy, I'm doing a lot of different stuff, and I unfortunately don't get as much time to read, but there are some really good books in here, especially this one, that we're gonna talk about. So of course we need to start with my favorite read of October, which was Alchemised by Sen-Lin Yu. This book, oh my goodness. One of the best pieces of literature I've honestly ever read in my life. And this is a huge book. It's over 1,000 pages, but it doesn't feel like a really long book. And it is so, so good. Definitely not recommended for anybody younger than 18. It is very, very dark, and it's very gruesome, and it is honestly, it's so beautiful. So Alchemized basically follows along our main character, Helena, and she has lost her memory. Well, not really. She hasn't really lost it. She or somebody has pretty much magicked her brain to have removed a bunch of her memories of her time in the rebellion. And so this is a rebellion that failed. So what's really unique about this book is that it takes place after a war where the good guys have lost. And so she's the last person from the rebellion left, and she doesn't have any memory about a lot of stuff that happened. And so when she's discovered, people are like, okay, this is suspicious. Like, why does this random healer have such intricate magic done to her brain? She must be hiding something. And so she is basically taken to this guy named Farron, and he's like the high necromancer, and his job is to basically go into her brain and try to pull out the magic to find her memories and what happened with that. And it is a devastating book, and it's so romantic at times too. But like, obviously check out the trigger warnings, because there is a captive / captor kind of like romance vibe to it that if you're not into that, then you might not like this book. But oh my goodness, did I love this book. And then also just like part 2 of this book honestly is the best part of the entire book. It is a wonderful book. It's a wonderful read. It is so, so good. And like, it has necromancers, and you get to follow along like the magic and the way that the alchemy works, and you learn about the world and the characters and the history and the magic and the religion, and really just how everything ties together. Like, this is so well thought out and so well done that I'm so obsessed. And it is only one book, and I'm obsessed with checking out all the fan art. I have a cool bookmark that I bought and stickers. Like, this is one of the best books I think that I've ever read, and it will have a special place in my heart. So obviously I gave it 5 stars. I found it to be a very tough read at times because of how grotesque it can be. There is some body horror in it as well, but honestly, it is so, so worth it. I loved it, and it really gives you an interested look on like what happens when the good guys lose. This is the outcome of like the world, and it's wonderful. If you haven't read it, definitely do. Next up, let's talk about Taurus Season by Brienne Weaver. This is the first book of hers that I have ever read, and I know that she's well known for her Butcher and Blackbird trilogy, which is a serial killer romance. And you're gonna see a trend, obviously, because I read all these books in October. I wanted to go for more of like that horror, that dark kind of vibe, and so dark romance obviously fits in that category. And so this book was really interesting because unlike Alchemized, which is very, very dark and like somber, this book is a bit more on the funny end, which is like weird when you think about the premise of the book. And the premise of the book is about 2 serial killers falling in love and trying to fight against it, because she is inadvertently responsible for the death of his brother. And so he's been tracking down everybody who's been involved, saving her for last. And she is basically like hiding away in this town, and during Taurus season, if there are people who are kind of showing up there, they're kind of causing trouble and stuff, she uses them to fertilize her garden. So they're both 2 different types of serial killers, 2 different motives and all of that. And so when they kind of meet each other, they're like, trying to like outwit each other, trying to kill each other, you know, all that good stuff. But they end up having to team up because there's this pretty much like independent investigator guy who has this really big following, like he's got a podcast, like he and his kind of investigator section of Reddit have solved crimes. And so he comes to this town, the town of Carnage, to basically figure out why do so many people die here. And so with him kind of like skulking around, the two serial killers, not wanting to obviously get caught being serial killers, they have to work together to basically not get caught from this guy. Like, it's a different twist, right? Because typically in books, the sleuth would be your main character, but in this book, from the perspective of the serial killers, he's the bad guy. And I just think it's just such a fun idea. And the book itself is written pretty well. I definitely laughed out loud a couple of times with it. I think I ended up giving it 4 or 4.5 stars. It was definitely a good time. It was silly. It had its serious moments though, and it's one of those books that it's like, if you like that kind of thing, like you like dark romance, then I think you'll really like it. But if you're like, what? You might not like this book. So it's very particular, but I really like this kind of book. So if you're interested in reading this kind of book, I think it's a really good, honestly, introduction to dark romance, because it's not super in the like you're questioning your life choices kind of vibe, if that makes sense. Dark romance is awesome. I love it. So yeah, if you haven't read it, this is a good one to start with for sure. Next up, let's talk about Ali Hazelwood's Mate. This is the sequel to Bride. And so I'm not going to give any spoilers because you may have not read Bride. And so essentially this book is the second in the series, and it follows the relationship of a werewolf and a werewolf hybrid. So half human, half werewolf, and how they are mates for each other. But she's not really interested in him, and he's not really like, you know, interested in her. And so they're kind of always, you know, just doing their own thing. But as circumstances kind of, you know, happen, they end up having to team together, because the guy's like, you know what, like, my mate has been threatened, I need to protect her. Like, he's the alpha of his pack, and so he's trying to protect her, and she's like, kind of feels bad about it because she's like, sorry. And it follows along just like this whole forbidden aspect, and like two characters who are destined for each other, but fate keeps on, you know, intervening, and the yearning that they have for each other is absolutely phenomenal. And like, Ali Hazelwood is a wonderful writer, and of course she does it again in this one. I did have slight critiques with it where there were just a few too many modern day references, and that for me is just one of my biggest pet peeves for writing, because I find that it ruins the longevity of a book. Because like, if I was to like, I don't know, have kids and they have kids and they have kids, and for whatever reason they want to read Mate, they're gonna be like, what is this talking about? Like, what is this reference? Because it's not gonna make any sense even in a couple of years. So I find that that kind of diminishes the long-term value of a book. But that's really my only critique. I really liked this book. It has a really great kind of like narrative about like how werewolves are not humans, how they are different, and how the characters are kind of like learning that together, because she's half human, she's been raised in the human world, you know, all that good stuff. And the romance is so good. I was like screaming over a hug. And that's how you know, like, the yearning is just like, so yeah, I think I gave this one 4 or 4.5 stars. Had a really good reading month, it seems. But yeah, this one was really good. Make sure you read Bride first and then read Mate, because they do connect, and I foresee another book coming in this series, so I'm really excited about it. But this was good. And if you're into like knotted, this series has that. I'm not into that, but I know what it is now, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, Ali Hazelwood's really good with that as well. She incorporates kinks that are very specific, that aren't really put in the majority of books, and I think that she does a really good job in showcasing them and just making them work well in books. So yeah, if you're into that, another reason to read it. Next up, we have The Heartbreak Hotel by Ellen Octobe. And this is what is pretty much that I define as a palate cleanser book, or a brain cleanser book. And I think I actually read this one after I read Alchemised, because that book destroyed me and I don't think I'll ever recover from it. And this book was the perfect book to basically read after that, because it's charming, it's cute, fall time vibes, and it's a fun little romance. And it's basically about this woman who breaks up with her boyfriend but wants to keep the house that they're renting, because she feels very attached to it, because she had a childhood where she was constantly like on the go, going place to place to place to place, and she's never felt any kind of stability in her life until she moved into this house. However, she can't afford the rent of the house. And so she basically convinces the landlord to let her turn it into like an Airbnb, like bed and breakfast kind of vibe. And she kind of markets it for, you know, people who are going through heartbreaks, they can come here and they can wallow, they can explore and really just find themselves again. And she does have a background as a therapist. She just has to finish her exams, like her licensing exams, before she can finally be one. So she kind of gives free therapy in there as well. So it's just like, it's a heartbreak hotel. And this guy, when he learns about how she's been marketing it, he's like, what? This isn't what we agreed on. What's going on? But like, it's really interesting because it's like a landlord romance. And so you get to see a lot of the interactions of like something breaks in the house and he has to come on over and they have like conversations. And there's one time where she was really drunk and like, it was really cute. I really liked it. It was a good time. I think I gave it a high 3 stars or a high 3.5 stars, something like that. Cause like this book isn't gonna blow your mind, but it's very entertaining. It's really funny at times, and the romance is really, really cute, and you're just like rooting for them to be together, and like, it's good. It's a good time. So if you like those kind of like warm and fuzzy types of books, Heartbreak Hotel is definitely one that you should add to your list. It is fall time as well, so like, it's a good fall time cozy read. Next up, we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars, and I didn't find out until after I read it and posted a whole video about it that there's some controversy about this book. So I guess that makes sense why people weren't talking about this book. But I really, really did like this book. It was warm, it was cute, it was magical, and it was a really fun time, to be honest. And so it basically follows along this caseworker, and he works in the department that deals with magical children. And so magical children, once they're identified, they're basically taken away and put into these orphanages. But orphanage isn't really a good way to put it, because like the kids are never gonna get adopted because nobody wants magical kids. And eventually like they get sent to these like schools and stuff. And this is where a bit of that controversy came from, based on kind of the conversations I had with some of you in the comments, that the author had kind of taken a lot of inspiration from what had happened with the residential schools in Canada, which, if you don't know, it's real bad. We even have like a whole kind of like holiday here in Canada about like remembering truth and reconciliation. And so I don't entirely understand the controversy itself, so I don't want to speak too much of it, but just wanted to acknowledge that I'm aware of it. And that's kind of like the background of that. And so the main character is Linus, and he has basically just kind of lived his life going day by day by day. And so he basically gets picked to go to this island where this like orphanage is. And in that orphanage is basically the Antichrist. And this kid is responsible, obviously, for the end of the world. And so his job is to basically go to this place, spend 3 months there, and see if the caretaker is doing his job properly and if the kids are safe, or if the orphanage needs to be closed because that kid could cause the end of the world. And so you get a big found family kind of aspect in this book, where it's a man who's never belonged anywhere, no one's ever really cared about him, finds his way to this place with all these other rejected people. And it's so cute, it's really cute, and it's really well written, and it just warmed my heart reading this book, to be honest. And like, it was so good. And just like the way that the magic is done, and it's interesting because it's like magical kids, but also like dystopian 1984 vibes somehow at the same time. So I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was beautifully written, it was cozy, it was emotional, it was funny. It just made me feel so much. And that's just like the sign of a good book. So despite the controversy, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know about the controversy, but yeah, I do still think it's a good book, and I do still recommend it. And last but certainly not least, I read On Writin' by Stephen King. This is, I think it's his only nonfiction book, actually. And it's a memoir about his life, as well as a bunch of really great writing and editing advice. And so you may already be aware, but if you're not, I have been editing my novel, The Song of the Sea, for, as of recording this, a couple of days, and every single day I've been making a video kind of updating with my progress on how that's going. And so I've been using a lot of tips from this book that I read, because he basically introduces how to edit your own novel, some really great steps, one of them being like step away from your work for a couple of weeks and then come back to it with fresh eyes to begin your second draft, how to eliminate certain words, what needs to be eliminated, how to further build characters, look for symbolism, among many other things. And so I really like this. At first I was really confused because I didn't realize it was a memoir, and I'm like, wow, this man's just going on and on about his life for like 100 pages. Where's the writing advice? But like it comes later, and that's where all these little sticky tabs are, because I do continuously reference this book while I'm editing my novel. But when it comes to editing a novel, it's a completely novel experience because you're following a different type of structure. This is a lengthy thing to edit, and I've never really edited something this big. It's hundreds of pages, and so one of the other rules is to try to reduce your manuscript by 10%. So that's another thing I'm doing. I'm really just going in with a pen, and so this book has really helped me kind of step away and figure out how do you edit such a massive piece when you've never edited a massive piece before. So yeah, if you're editing a book or you're editing a long piece, long form of content, I do think that this is a really good read for that. There are some other really good books out there, like On Writing Well, The Copywriter's Handbook by Bob Bly, among others, but this one here I think is pretty good. This one plus On Writing Well I think is a really good combo if you are kind of looking to figure out the best ways to edit your books. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read in the month of October. So pretty good. I didn't have any books that I hated, which is amazing. The lowest was really just like a 3.5, and it was still a good read, obviously. So like, we did good. We did good in October. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want more details about any of these books, I do have videos on every single one except for the one on writing, where I update you as I read the book at different parts of the reading journey from the beginning, the middle, and the end. So you can get more in-depth kind of review by checking out those videos, and they're all non-spoiler as well. If you haven't already, definitely hit the subscribe button. And with that, I'm going to wish you warm wishes and fish kisses, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!